Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where, sure enough, just as we predicted yesterday, it's an awfully slow news week. There are a lot of trailers though, boy, 3 this morning, so that's why this episode's a little bit late today. I was reacting to those, but it's a good thing that yesterday I put a call out to you for viewer questions because I suspected we would have a lot of time to discuss them. And you guys really answered the call, really some fantastic viewer questions. And as a result, today we have an entire viewer question episode. But before we get to them, I just want to remind you that tonight's the night that you can watch It with me live. It takes place at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on the main Beyond the Trailer YouTube channel. This afternoon, a placeholder video will go up so you'll know where to join me for the viewing party. And then at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there will be a live Q&A about the movie, which will have its own video section. So again, you have to get your digital copy in advance, so be sure to pick that up, as well as your snacks. I have to go out and get my snacks also this afternoon. Again, I'm getting caramel popcorn and Sour Patch Kids, because I eat kids too. Oh, I love it. It's so weird and twisted. I can't wait to watch with you guys. Okay, so let's get to today's excellent 4 viewer questions. And the first is from Brian. And Brian says, viewer question, how do you see The Last Jedi performing in the weeks ahead compared to The Force Awakens? Do you think the low viewer rating on Rotten Tomatoes will hurt it? And do you think the 90-something% from reviewers is too high and a bit shady? Thanks. I wouldn't say that it's shady. I mean, I liked the movie, as you might recall, from my own reviews of it. But as for the Rotten Tomatoes score, there's a question as to which way this is going to break, right? I think that the more telling thing is that nobody has any interest in any online content about any coverage about The Last Jedi except for negative articles. That's fascinating to me. For instance, I did a box office report and I did a backlash breakdown in the past 2 days, and there was a lot more interest in the backlash breakdown. And that's, The Last Jedi did very well opening weekend, and people simply don't seem to care. So I think that there will be a drop, bigger than The Force Awakens, which dropped just 40% in its second weekend. I don't think it's going to be BVS level, Batman v Superman, which dropped 69%, but I think it could be Justice League level, which dropped 56% in its second weekend, especially with so much competition coming out in the next few days. People have other options, and again, this negative slant is really taking hold. It's again what I said in my backlash breakdown video that Disney would be afraid of, because of course the DCEU just couldn't shake that either, and Disney doesn't want that stink on its Star Wars brand. This puts tremendous pressure, I think, on Ron Howard with his upcoming Han Solo movie. It's on a different release date, Memorial Day instead of Christmas. Nobody really wants that movie. I think the casting is very questionable. We'll have to see how Alden Ehrenreich does when they finally let us take a look at him. And it's very scary indeed. So that's my answer to you. I think that this is a problem, and I think it will drop more than The Force Awakens because of the way I see the coverage changing, and it's very similar again to what happened to the DCEU. Fascinating. All right, so the second viewer question comes from Ignacio, and Ignacio says, Grace, I have a question. You say that in movies, certain characters are there as tokenism. I was wondering, how do you decide if a character is there only as tokenism? Was Rose tokenism in The Last Jedi, Cyborg in Justice League, etc.? Thank you in advance for answering my question. My pleasure. So I would say that it's a great question. These are all, again, great questions. Rose, I would not say is tokenism in The Last Jedi. I think that both she and her sister Paige, the Tico sisters, were fabulous characters, very well created. And you'll see why in just a moment. But I would say that Finn does reek of tokenism, as I've said in my coverage of the film. And as for Cyborg, I think he's just on the line. I really liked what they did with the character in Justice League with Cyborg, but I think that putting him in the Justice League at all is tokenism, because I think that he's very much a member of the Teen Titans or the Titans, whichever version of the team that you're looking at. And I think clearly he was only graduated to the Justice League because they wanted to get more diversity in their lineup. So a token character is one that is not fully developed. It's not complex. It doesn't feel like a fully fleshed out real character. That's only there. Tokenism means minimal effort. Like the studio is like, we need more diversity. Stick in some diverse characters, just stick them in there, right? And just like sprinkle them over the script and let's move on. A non-token character is one that is very much ingrained organically into the story and is there for the purposes of the story, and not just as like a little flag to wave at audiences and be like, see, you're here too. Okay, now pay attention to the other characters, right? That's the difference. A non-token character is a legit character in the film instead of, again, one that just seems like studio notes or, doesn't seem to fit with the movie. That's a good way to decide. If you're looking at a movie like Finn and you say, this character doesn't seem to fit. He doesn't have a good relationship with any of the other characters. His storyline doesn't fit. If you took him out of the movie, would it make a difference? And if the answer is no, that's tokenism. All right, so the third question comes from, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble pronouncing your name, Thies Verberg. So Thies, we've talked before, Thies, but it's the first time I've said your name out loud. But Thies says, morning movie news question. Often I go alone to the movies because my friends do not like the movies I'm going to. Your friends are not nice. Sometimes really good friends should sometimes just see a movie because you're excited about it, right? I mean, how torturous could it be? Many friends find it strange to go to the movies alone. Why is there such a stigma, and what should I tell them when they again say going alone is strange? Well, I think your friends don't, I'm glad that they're your friends, and I'm glad that you like hanging out with them, but this is kind of not cool of them, to be honest with you. All right, so anyway, I go to movies all the time by myself, largely for press screenings. Sometimes you're not allowed to take a guest. Sometimes they're in the afternoon. Most of the time, actually, you're not allowed to take a guest. And then other times, it's in the middle of the day, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea, I think the stigma comes from, this idea that you maybe don't have anyone to go with, because movies tend to be a social activity, right? Go with friends, family, a date, etc. But I think that as less and less people want to go to the movies, as just like your friends, why should you miss it? And I'm glad that you're not letting them keep you from seeing movies that you're excited about in theaters. And also the other thing is watching a movie is a solo experience, right? There should be no talking in the theater. So, it's something that you do by yourself anyway. And it's a lot of fun actually to go by yourself. You get whatever snacks you want. You can sit wherever you want. You can get there whenever you want. I have found that it's difficult to hold a seat when it's crowded and get your snacks. You have to get there like insanely early to get your snacks and then get your seat because no one can hold it for you. So you can tell your friends, you're like, just come and hold my damn seat. But overall, going by yourself is a really nice, I'd say even cathartic experience where you can just focus on the movie. So have fun and tell your friends that they should be better friends and just go with you if you would like them to go. But as I said, I don't think it should affect your movie-going experience. I think you can have a great time going by yourself. All right, then the fourth viewer question comes from Eric. And Eric says, I'm wondering, if Mulan has to be played by a Chinese actress, why didn't Belle have to be played by a French actress? Serious question. All right, Eric, I'm going to take your question seriously as you say you intended it. And it's a very simple answer. Box office. France does not nearly have the same box office footprint that China does. Let's take Thor Ragnarok for a recent example. China contributed $112 million to Thor Ragnarok's box office, whereas France contributed just $21 million. So that's like the main reason that, Chinese audiences have to like Mulan because it'll make a big difference in how the box office turns out. But if French audiences aren't so in love with Beauty and the Beast, it's not of a particular consequence to Disney. What's more important is that Emma Watson has an insane number of fans, right? Which don't always turn up for her movies, but for some reason, she was very good as Belle, but Beauty and the Beast and Emma Watson were a good match, and her fans loved it. Then also there's ethnicity, right? So obviously Emma Watson can pass as someone from France, but she obviously couldn't play someone from China. But however, it's an interesting situation because in Asia, they're very specific about what country everyone comes from. So even though often we have people from the UK playing Americans, etc., you cannot have someone from Japan or South Korea playing someone who's Chinese. Audiences simply wouldn't stand for it. So that's a little bit of a wrinkle there. But although I would like to point out, by the way, that Belle did have a British accent in Beauty and the Beast, the live action version, and she had an American accent in the animated version. And that speaks to the fact that Beauty and the Beast was co-opted by Disney a long time ago. I don't think that it's particularly, even though it is a French in origin, just like Cinderella, neither one particularly has that image. But Mulan is ingrained in Chinese culture, right? She's like China's Captain Captain America in some ways. Like, you have to have Captain America played by an American actor, right? You would think the same would be true of Superman, but of course, Henry Cavill is from the UK. But it's a little bit like James Bond as well. James Bond has to be played by someone from the UK. And so that's the same situation with Mulan. So it's a character where her nationality is so much more important to not just the character, but as a factor in the story. She fights for China, and I think saves China, from the Huns. If you've seen the animated movie, you know all about this. But of course, so that's the other reason. But the big one, obviously, is the box office, because Hollywood makes these movies to make money. All right, so that's today's morning movie news. Thank you again for your wonderful viewer questions. We're going to be doing this all week probably, because again, it's going to be a slow news week. So if you have a viewer question, now is the perfect, ideal time to ask. All right, thanks for watching, and you can check out some more videos right now.